You know, on this channel, I make it very clearly that I love steam engines, and I won't lie, I do like all kinds of locomotives, but man, steam engines are so pretty, especially Puerto Rican ones. However, there is a side of Puerto Rican railroad history that is not talked a whole bunch in the community, except for the two episodes that I did, which you should definitely go watch them, even though they're outdated as heck. And there is a railroad that I've always been fascinated about their history, how they came to be, and why they came to disappear in the late 2010s. So today, we'll be talking about the last goods railroad operating in Puerto Rico, what was known as the Chemex Railroad. So, what on earth is the Chemex Railroad? What is this railroad that's like so small that there's barely anything related to it? Well, the simple answer is because really nothing happened to this railroad. Like, there were no accidents or anything really special. But nonetheless, it's a railroad that caught my interest. Why? Well, for starters, this railroad was one of two railroads over here in Puerto Rico that was standard gauge. The other being another port railroad that was in San Juan, which, fun fact, that railroad used an XPRR 50-tonner engine, which for those who don't know, I'm a huge fan of the Pennsy, so knowing this, that we had a Pennsy engine for a while, make me really happy. Anyway, getting back on track, and yes, pun was intended. The Chemex Railroad was opened in 1988 and was 1/4 of a mile long. This railroad went from Ponce to Guayama, transporting chemicals in tankers. They only had 23 rolling stock, that being 20 tankers and 3 flatbeds, which, fun fact, the flatbeds came from Northern Pacific, and here's a picture of them when they arrived. The railroad had a fleet of 3 locomotives when it opened. The smallest was a GE 45-tonner called 8, and that is the third locomotive over here that is number 8. Seriously, why is everyone's favorite number over here 8? Number 8 came originally from the Central Illinois Public Service Company, being numbered 8. The other 2 locomotives were a EMD SW1 that came from the Southern Railway, being numbered 1005, being later renumbered to 50 over here, and then an EMD SW9, originally from the Detroit, Toledo, and Ironton number 120, which was later renumbered to 402 over here. And fun fact, 402 was the strongest locomotive to date in Puerto Rico. So this was these islands' big boy locomotive in other ways. Number 8 was the least used out of the 3, hence why this is the only picture of 8 working in the railroad. 8 was later sold on around the early 90s to a steelworks in America, and is still to this day working. 402 is the only one we really don't know what happened to it, as in the late 90s or so, the engine disappeared mysteriously. And once again, why do engines mysteriously disappear? It's a common topic over here, Jesus. 402 is believed to have been either scrapped or sent back to Alabama, as probably it was the least used out of the engines. While 8 was used very less because it was weak, I don't think 402 was used as much either, because pretty much it was another bigger engine when 50 could do the same job as it easily. Remember, there was only 20 cars they had to shunt, and probably not together, so it probably made sense just to have one locomotive than have 3 doing just one job, as the railroad did operate only twice a month. Yeah, I've never heard that before either. I don't know why this railroad operated twice a month, but that's really interesting to me. In the later years, 50 became the sole locomotive running in the railroad, sometimes being left in the yard or between the tankers and the sidings. It was shunned to 20 tankers with chemicals in it to the barge and then sent back to Alabama in the rail barge. 50 would do this for 22 years straight, up until 2010, when unfortunately, the Chemex Railroad ceased operations. These pictures that we have of 50 were of her last days working in Puerto Rico. After that, the rails were ripped up from the ground and everyone forgot about the railroad. So why did the railroad close down? Well, the answer is simple. There wasn't really any business. The railroad only operated twice a month, which severely affected its service. Not only that, but monthly, it will only transport 20 tankers, which is not a lot considering that cargo ships can carry easily 5 times the amount of that or even more. So having a small railroad just transporting 20 chemicals twice a month didn't really help either both the services and the railroad, hence why it's closed down in 2010. From understanding, from 2007 to 2010, less tankers were being put on barges. At one point there were only 15, to the point where in the last few days of the 2010 operations, there's only 5 tankers being loaded per barge, which is insane. Luckily though, on their last day of operation, 15 tankers went into Alabama for the last time. Hence why, if you go to that same rail yard today, you'll see 5 tankers behind. Fun fact, I actually saw them myself a long time ago, and they're in pretty good nick, I won't lie. But the real question everyone's probably asking here is, what happened to 50? Is 50 alright? Is 50 still around? Well, these pictures here are from 2012. As you can see, 50 is abandoned, somewhere in the grass where it's being overgrown, paint missing, covers missing, rusting already since it was near the sea. Unfortunately though, right after these photos were taken, 50 unfortunately got scrapped. So unfortunately, the last engine that we had working in service here was scrapped. And ironically, the first engine that arrived, that was the least used, is the one that still survives today and working operation. I don't know how to understand how this works, honestly. It's really interesting, the Chinese railroad history, because it was such a small railroad that pretty much nothing big happened in its history. But to me, it's so fascinating that our railroad survived so late into 2010. To give you an idea how that crazy is, in 2010 there was barely anything railroad related, and I was 3 years all the time. So the fact that at one point there was also goods were operating here in Puerto Rico, where railroad stuff is so scarce and in danger of being scrapped constantly. It was amazing that in 2010 there was still a railroad operating one single locomotive, and that's just so amazing to me. I'm so sad that I never got a chance to see it myself in operation. As I mentioned, I was 3 years at a time when the Chinese railroad closed down. And I would have been 5 had I seen 50 being abandoned in 2012. I would have loved to see 50 operating, or at least surviving to this day, but unfortunately, not everything lasts forever. Thank you all so much for today's episode. One last thing before I go is that I want to announce that I have a website now. This website we use for weekly updates, some behind the scenes stuff, and some cancer projects from the past on my YouTube channel's history. It's very basic at the moment, my website, but I hope you guys have a fun time, and probably I'll be the most active here, so if you want to contact me or ask me questions or see what I'm working on, feel free to visit my website. The link will be down in the description. Thank you all so much for today's video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.